Pleasure to have you with us on the program this morning.
Good morning. Happy Independence Anniversary.
Okay. And also joining us for this conversation via Zoom from the Plateau State Capital is regular now, His Excellency, the Governor of Plateau State, Simon Lalong. Your Excellency, pleasure to have you with us and happy Independence Anniversary.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. Thank you, Claire. And happy anniversary to all Nigerians. And good morning, Adesina.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Kingsley, come on. Okay, let's begin with the salient or highlights of the president broadcast. And I'd like to start with Mr. Additional. The president said that the last 18 months have been the most difficult in Nigerian history. Can you touchlight that for us?
Well, it goes without saying. And I just appreciated the candor of the president and being able to come out to say that. You know, the tendency is for people in certain positions to want to gloss over certain things. But what has been happening in our country, particularly in that period of time, it's not something you can gloss over. It's something you have to accept and confront and tackle. And the fact that the president has accepted it shows that it is something to be tackled. In terms of security particularly, it has been a very difficult time. Very, very difficult. And in terms of economy, it was tough because that period is also covered by the COVID-19 period. And you know that the economy went into a second recession. There were severe security challenges, and life was quite tough for the citizens. And what does government exist for, if not to affect the life of the citizens? So the president had to come out to accept that, and I think it was good.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Additional. Let's return to His Excellency, the Governor of Plateau State. Your Excellency, of course, you are one of the key managers of our polity at this time, operating from the sub-national level. The President acknowledging there the key challenges that we have faced in 18 months. In his words, probably the toughest, if some persons would say, since after the Civil War, because right now all parts of the country are impacted. What are your takeaways from the President's broadcasts? Did he strike the right chord?
Well, thank you very much, Kingsley. And also, let me say happy anniversary to all Nigerians. To congratulate also the President, the Vice President, the Senate President, Mr. Speaker, and the CJN for what they are doing and what we are all doing in Nigeria. So I also listened very attentively to what Mr. President's broadcast this morning. And I must say that to me, yes, we are moving forward. We are moving forward because sometimes Nigerians easily will forget exactly where we are coming from. We came in 2015, and in 2015, at that time, I was a governor. We came in 2015. And by the time we came in 2015, in fact, it was like a general collapse in the nation. General collapse because in most of these states were not able to pay salaries. States were all crying. Governors were all crying. One thing that we also were very, very happy to even notice was that some governors who were there before us said with even all these challenges, it was very, very difficult for them to even open their mouth and even challenge or ask questions about excess food. But for the first time under the National Economic Council, we were able to ask what was happening to our excess food. And within that, we were even able to extract and even take some money from the excess food. But before that time, we were told that you dare not ask questions about excess food. But many states, and the president came out with a bailout. It is this bailout that brought out so many states out of this problem. Otherwise, even at that time, the insecurity would have been too much because within that bailout, within that assistance, within that help to many of the states, today many states are paying their salaries. as and when due. And so what the president said is that yes, we have moved forward. We have challenges of insecurity. That notwithstanding, insecurity, we need to do more. Of course, we all agreed that we are supposed to do more in insecurity. And every time that is a cry from the south, that's also the trouble in the north. But we must do something. But I'm very happy from the takeoff that yes, things like concern for the youth, concern for the youth, concern for the disabled, concern for the girl child. These are very important things that will move the nation forward. And I'm very happy that he mentioned the issues about more incentives towards towards addressing these issues of youth restiveness and then the insecurity insecurity in the nation. The social investment scheme has been increased, and also the welfare of civil servants. And part of what I'm very happy about is, is the introduction of the infrastructure, infrastructure also assistance. That is the infraco. The infraco will go a long way. Of course, everybody is seeing already what is happening in railways. Everybody is seeing what is happening at the Federal Ministry of Works, the Niger Bridge. I witnessed the flagging of the railways in Kano. We have also seen what is happening in Lagos. We have seen what is happening in with the Niger Bridge in the southeast. So if you talk about many of these things, you would stand to thank God that yes, in spite of the challenges that we have in the country, there are so many efforts that is being done, not only by the federal government, but at the subnationals to address some of these issues. And with God on our side, it's like we are already beginning to find a way out of some of these challenges. And I think from the broadcast that I've seen, with the welfare to civil servants, with the attention given to some of these issues that I'm talking about, the well-being of disabilities and the prompt attention given to them, with special courts now to address the issue of rape and sexual violence. I think Nigeria is moving forward.
Um, Nigeria is a great country with great potentials. Now, this is usually, the phrase common with both political and public office holders. But I like the way the president has put it this morning, and I like to quote it. He said he appreciates anxiety on our inability to go beyond the never-ending potential of becoming a great nation to an actual great one. What does it tell you about the mindset of the president at this moment?
Well, I've worked with the president in the last 6 years. I work with the president. That is why sometimes when people say this is the president outside, for me, closely looking at him and some of the things that he's doing, I say, no, this is not the man that I know, that I work closely, that I work closely with. You see, there are Nigerians sometimes, yes, we are expecting too much. Yes, we are expecting too much within a short time, and also within a period that we have forgotten where we are coming from. This is what I always say. The challenges are there. It is not only in Nigeria. The challenges are all over the world. The COVID-19 brought out a devastating effect, not only in Nigeria, but all over the world. All over the world. The climate change, everything was also part of what moved attention of governments in not only Nigeria but in the world to serious challenges. And within these challenges, it is hope that what we are doing, the attention that is given, we must be patient as we move in. I always say patience because we wanted to address, we were addressing the issue of this insecurity in the nation. We wanted jet We wanted Tucano jet. In spite of the processes, in spite of the attention given to it, we were not in control because we don't manufacture them. But today, we're happy, as Mr. President mentioned, that these things are available. And I'm also witnessing already the onslaught on insurgency in part of Southwest, in the Northeast and in the Northwest, which is also something that will give us hope that we are going to move forward. In agriculture, the potentials in agriculture is very huge. And with the insecurity, this is what is retarding some of the efforts that we are doing at the national and also at the subnationals. And so with these available opportunities, if we begin to address this issue of insecurity, I see a very huge potentials that will come to many of parts of the states and also help in addressing the issue of unemployment, and also that is taking care of youth restiveness.
Much, Your Excellency. We'll return to you presently, but let's come back to our Abuja studios here and introduce our third guest. Is Professor Abiodun Adeniyi. Is of the Department of Mass Communication at Bayes University here in Abuja, one-time political correspondent. Professor Adeniyi, delight to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Straight away, what are your takeaways from the president's broadcast?
Oh, yeah. I think it was very exhaustive, more like a State of the Nation address, like I said somewhere else. You know, it's touched all the dimensions of our life, all the sectors, you know, the economy, agriculture, you know, and it went beyond the ceremony and speech to make some policy pronouncement, created some policy directions in the area of vaccine production, maybe against the future if we have any problem, you know, and in some other areas as well, you know, still letting us know about what they are doing in the area of security, the recruitment of soldiers, the recruitment of police, and all such things. So it was multidimensional, quite all right, and very satisfactory, beyond an ordinary ceremonial speech, you know. But having said that, you know, I had some worries in some areas, you know. I mean, I just had some goosebumps when I heard some things that the president said. I understand, you know, it was also very presidentially tried to inspire us in terms to galvanize us, despite some of the fears, anxieties we have in some circles. But I was worried in the area of reaction to secessionists, you know, Sunday Adeyemo, Nnamdi Kanu, and all of that, and the revelation that, you know, somebody in the National Assembly is actually sponsoring one of them. You know, I was a little bit scared that, we're getting to this end, we're getting to this point, which is also okay. You know, we can't stop security agencies from doing their job. You know, maybe as a result of investigations, they have come to that. You know, but I will just plead, I want to really see us at this time that this is probably the time we should be concerned about rapprochement, about peace building, consensus fostering, instead of, you know, probably trying to stress the atmosphere, create some tension, you know, around, you know, identifying political figures, you know, for whatever they probably we assume they will have done. We're not stopping security agencies from doing their job, but I just want the president to show the greater grace, you know, and be more concerned about peace building, you know, because he's rounding up now. President Buhari has done well in the area of infrastructure, in the area of utilities. What is left for him now is to leave a legacy, you know, a lasting legacy that will be indelible, you know, that will be, people will be able to rekindle in their memories in years in the future. And I'm happy that Mr. Adesina is here. He also talked about the media. You know, the president said something like, you know, journalists should investigate statements, you know, before they report. I don't know how many statements journalists can investigate before they report, given the way journalists ordinarily work. But I take it that President is just asking us to be much more careful, you know, to be much more thorough before, you know, reports are made, perhaps in reference to what is the social media, which is a little more problematic, as the case could be. And so, I don't know, maybe we should take a second look at that. You know, and I think, again, we have to understand the age in which we live in, the 21st century world of media revolution, where there's so much complexity, where tolerance and understanding is rather needed. And I was also intrigued by the revelation on Twitter. Well, we were expecting, like I said somewhere else as well, that maybe that revelation maybe shouldn't have been in a presidential broadcast. Well, it has happened, because it's a reference to a company. But I also want to understand, look at it within the ambit of freedom of expression and the redefinition that social media has come to create, which Twitter simply, largely, most importantly, exemplifies as well. But I'm happy at the end of the day that we're getting to the end of the controversy with respect to Twitter in the light of the place it occupies, not just in the business of individuals, but in permitting people to feel a sense of liberalization, to boost their self-esteem and to contribute to national development, rightly or wrongly, correctly or incorrectly, consistent with the character of democracy as one that is about involvement and integration as against isolation.
I'd like you to explain further,
Yeah.
in the light of criticisms coming from the opposition on the need to prosecute those behind or sponsors of insurgency, kidnappings, and violent insecurity generally. What is your major concern about what the president had said in that speech? He did not put a name to the identification. He only pointed at a particular direction. What was wrong with it in concrete terms?
The president of a nation like ours is a very powerful person, When the president makes a statement, it has a way of sending jitters to the minds of everybody. Of course, we know this, And it's okay, like I said, we can't stop security agencies from doing their job and from feeding the president with information, But the wisdom behind the president mentioning is what scares me a little bit, because I would have thought that maybe after mentioning that perpetrators or their sponsors will be dealt with, then the Ministry of Justice will take over, or the other arms of government responsible for the implementation will take over from there.
Mr. Adesina, what do you think?
I think what we have always known President Buhari for is that he's a straight shooter. And when it comes to shoot straight, he shoots straight. He doesn't mince words. You said you will have thought it was time for rapprochement. Yes, listen to the speech carefully. He said, we don't have to spill blood for peace, but that we must do what we must do. You also said it in your comment that the security agencies must do their work. They must do their work. Nigeria has come to crunch time, and we don't need to speak tongue-in-cheek about certain things again. If you have people backing secessionists, it is time to deal with them now. And that's what the president said. I don't believe there is anything wrong with it. Having said that, the onus is now on the investigative agencies to conclude their work, and then the prosecutorial part of government should also do its work. I think a process has been started. There is a chain of events that should follow that, and it's good for the country, because we can't continue like we have been carrying on. Why do you want to dismember a country of 200 million people? Where do they go? Where do they go? All those who are troubling Nigeria may not be up to 1,000. So why should you put the fate of 200 million people in the balance because of unfounded and not well-focused ideologies? That's what the president is saying.
I'll just say, Femi and Biodun Adeni, gentlemen, there's something that I haven't seen highlighted, perhaps going forward, where we will get that. The sense I got from the president broadcast was that he has issued a directive for the lifting of the suspension on Twitter. Although he made it then conditional.
Conditional, yes.
But what is a bit unclear to me, if you look at paragraph 72 of the president's broadcast, it was talking about a committee that was set up to evaluate the operations of Twitter and to meet with Twitter. It said the committee, along with its technical team, has engaged with Twitter and have addressed a number of key issues. Those ones: national security and cohesion, registration, physical presence and representation, fair taxation, dispute resolution, and local content. Following the extensive engagements, that's paragraph 73, the issues are being addressed, and I have directed that the suspension be lifted, but only if the conditions are met to allow our citizens continue the use of the platform for business and positive engagements.
Yes.
So, what I'm saying is the headline should be President Buhari directs the lifting of suspension. I mean, that's a long one. You know, President Buhari lifts suspension on Twitter.
No, but
But
it is
I don't know.
contingent
Yeah,
on
on
certain
what?
things.
But
Yes.
there must be but.
Yeah.
No, if contingent, what I'm saying is these are continuing engagements.
Yes.
Continuing engagements. Fair taxation, local content doesn't come overnight. I mean, dispute resolution, unless a dispute arises.
But registration must be immediate.
Of course, that's those. I'm just wondering some of those key points. You know, how do you? What should Nigerians take from these two paragraphs, 72 and 73, Femi?
Yes, I think there are some irreducible minimum. And when that irreducible minimum is met, then there can be progress. Those things that are being spelled out there are some that are in the immediate. There are some that are in the short term. There are some that are in the long term. So it is not a time to now dig into entrenched positions. If some of the immediate requirements are made, then Twitter can begin to operate. And then the short term comes after, and then the long term comes subsequently. So that is what that place means.
All right.
Okay, just before we let you go, we understand you have to leave us in a short
Soon,
while.
yes.
Yes, soon. Let's also look at the President's speech on infrastructure, which he has, again, re-emphasized the government's priority. That it's a high priority. And the 15 trillion naira infraco quota, which he said will begin this quarter. What are we to expect?
Yes, you know that one of the legacies that would be indelible after President Buhari leaves is infrastructure. Roads, rail, bridges, airports, and the like. The president is doing great things in infrastructure, and he intends to still do more within, I think it's about 19 or 20 months left from today. Within that period, he wants to really do a lot more in infrastructure. So Infraco is coming to consolidate the efforts on infrastructure. You know, we have the Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund, which has been working on projects like the Second Niger Bridge, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, Abuja-Kano-Kaduna Road, and some other key projects. Now, when you have Infraco coming with 15 trillion capital base, so to speak, a lot more can still be
Do we
done.
have items underpinned to this capital base?
Yes, the Infraco is starting this last quarter, according to the president in that broadcast. And I'm sure that it will not just come in quietly. It will unfold what it wants to do. I know that already there are processes going on in terms of setting up Infraco. High level manpower and then budget and all that. I know what is going on there. So when Infraco takes off, it can only be good for Nigeria in terms of infrastructure.
All right, thank you. Let's return to Jos with His Excellency, the Plateau State Governor. I just wondering, Your Excellency, at a time of great anxiety and violence in different parts of the country, today, of course, we are marking our 61st independence anniversary. Is there a sense in which hope and faith have been renewed in us, or are there ways we can auto-generate hope and faith and still believe that we are one entity and that the country is here for us to build and for us to live in?
Well, thank you very much. Well, at the level of governance and also the discussions within the Governors Forum, we all have hope that in this country we believe in Nigeria. And in this country, forget about what some people say, what you hear. But when we meet as governors forum, we are united on one cause, that this country is indivisible and nobody will want to move away from this country. But the challenges must collectively be addressed. Well, insecurity is part of it. And many times we've all made presentations to Mr. President on the need to address some of these issues. I mentioned, of course, the contributions of the governors in respect to some of these, to the attention on insecurity, where we even gave out our contributions for the purchase of some security equipments. I'm very happy that Mr. President mentioned it, that already we're having this, some of these security equipments. The Tucano helicopters are already in the country, and many other ones that we've also made presentation to Mr. President. Well, security is not something that it is a one-man thing. Security is not only a federal, excuse me, security is also not only a federal concern, it's also a collective concern. As we move in and also look towards the president addressing it, the state should also be able to do something to address some of these insecurities. And the way we are doing it is for our people to go back, for all of us as leaders to go back and also look at it and see how we can address some of these issues of insecurity, religious insecurity, ethnic disputes and conflict. These are some of the issues. And again, part of it, as we have already said several times, that we must also address the issue of poverty. Economy is very, very important. And you cannot have improvement in economy when you don't have enough attention on security. So I also expect that in addressing security, there must be also quick dispensation. I call it proper and quick dispensation of justice. Proper in the sense that there must be prosecution of those people that are always found guilty or of some of the criminals that are suspects. We must find due diligence and also ensure that these people are prosecuted and also put as examples. One thing I also didn't hear, of which I thought I must also is of great concern to me, and in the north, especially in the north central, is the rehabilitation of IDPs. Is rehabilitation of IDPs. I think we must address some of these issues because a lot of people, we are talking also about addressing this issue of amnesty. If we are talking about amnesty, we must also we must be talking about the victims. What are we talking about the victims? I am part of it. These are the challenges that I have in the rehabilitation of some of these victims who have been there. And since we left them, they are all still there. They are very angry people. And if we are addressing and we are looking towards looking at these issues of insecurity, we must also be ready to also ensure that we are carrying insecurity. We are carrying security with peace building. And the peace building can only come in when some of these victims are also given attention. However, I've seen a lot of social investments that are there, that are there, and we're hoping at the end of the day, because some of these agitations are because of this kind of issues. And so if we put our attention on infrastructure, let us also put our attention on infrastructure that will address the plight of this kind of people. And that will help us to continue to talk about peace building. We'll continue to talk about the unity of this country. Because as we move forward, we hear agitations different, some of them political agitations here and there. We are moving towards election. So when we are moving to election, we must ensure that there is also fairness and also there is justice. Justice for both the victims and justice for those who are also, I think justice is different ways. So what we are also calling is that as we move in, let us remember to address some of these things, because that is the only thing that we can bring comfort. And then the last one that I always say, that if we agree as a nation, if there's a problem in one region, we must collectively move to the region and address it. Sometimes, yes, I can be very selfish. I talk from the Northern Governor's point of view. If there are issues in the Southeast, if there are issues in the Southwest, we run to that place to sit down to address the issues with them. Let us also see a kind of, if we want the unity of this country, there are issues in the North. Let us see Southern governors moving to us. Let's sit down together and do dialogue. That's the only way we can do, so that we don't put and wait and say everything is Mr. President, everything is Mr. President. Mr. President is federal government. What about the subnationals? Most of these issues are in the states. So that is also my concern.
All right, Your Excellency, thank you. You're not just being selfish, you are a human. Selfishness is an intricate part of human nature. But just a reminder, the topic for our conversation today is strengthening independence, Nigeria's independence, national unity, and peace, of course, part 2. We've only just looked at the president's speech, so we'll quickly just allow Mr. Femi Adesina, who is the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, to take his leave. And we really appreciate you for sharing the few minutes with us on this very special occasion. Thank you, Mr. Adesina.
Thank you, my pleasure.
All
and
right. We'll take a short break. When we
Nigerians.
come back, we now escalate our conversation to the topic of the day.
Well, the housing solution we have developed is a multifaceted one. First, we have tried to lead a program to build what we think will be an acceptable and hopefully affordable housing type based on surveys we did in 2015-2016 and construction that started in 2017.
All right, welcome back. If you're watching, this is Good Morning Nigeria special edition on this special day. And our topic is strengthening Nigeria's independence, peace and unity, part 2. Professor Abiodun Adeni is still here with us. His Excellency, Right Honorable Simon Bako Lalong, Governor of Plateau State and Chairman, Northern Governors Forum, also with us. So let's begin our conversation. Kingsley.
All right.
Okay.
I mean, we're already into it, as it
Yes.
were, Claire, because we have very little time left. But they're all interconnected because the president, you know,
Yes.
in his broadcast touched on aspects of strengthening our independence as well as the need for us to remain united. Back to Professor Adede, the same question I posed to His Excellency, one question I would like to ask. You know, you did say earlier that, well, the president's speech wasn't solely celebratory. Yeah, I mean, it was broad spectrum. But at a time that we are in, where there's a great deal of tension, a great deal of anxiety, and evident bloodletting, do we have hope? Do we have faith renewed in us? And what is it that we can claw at? The aspects of infrastructure, fantastic, because it tells you that you have to have a foundation anyway to be able to ply your trade as private sector person and to be able to function even in the public service that the president himself touched on. But those ingredients of hope and faith, how do we ignite them or reignite them and then keep them aglow?
Yeah, very well, sir. You know, and that's why we say in the process of nation building, there are some key you know, factors that we need to consider. One is how vibrant the civil society is. Second is the commonality of language. And the third, of course, is the commonality of institutions like President Buhari has tried to address. And, of course, some of these institutions, too, are either actual or abstract. They are actual, you know, when we are seeing them in the physical sectors, you know, transportation, trying to bind us together as one. And of course, they are abstract through laws, you know, through ingraining of faith, giving us a sense of belief in our commonness. That faith is sometimes be much more important, you know, so that we'll have this collective belief in our nationality, in our Nigerianness, you know, but we are still falling short in that, and that's why we keep going back to sometimes in the past when we did some level of mobilization just to galvanize the populace, you know, so that to elevate our mind over the matter, seemingly, that we tend to see around ourselves. Sometimes it's not just about the physical things. The mind of the average Nigerian also matter. What have we done? What are we doing to reconstruct the mind, to believe in our commonness? Nation building is processual. We'll make that point severally. And of course, Nigeria is not the only heterogeneous society. But the cause of nation building desires that efforts should be made towards homogenizing us, and homogenizing us to takes time, like you alluded to, but what do we do in the immediate circumstances? And that's why the question of leadership will keep coming up. We'll keep talking about our leaders, and we have to also reiterate the point that when we're talking about leaders, we're not talking about political leaders alone. We're also talking about public service leaders, civil service leaders, military leadership, even family leadership. It permeates all dimensions. What examples are we showing? Look at what happened in Afghanistan recently. The United States of America spent a lot of money trying to build, the Afghan military to be able to withstand the Taliban. But of course, we saw armory. We saw some of the weapons that Nigeria is even trying to buy. Were fully supplied to the Afghans. But at the end of the day, what happened? There was no organic evolution of the Afghan nation. So the military collapsed like a pack of cards in the face of, the Taliban, who are even smaller than the so-called Afghan military, who were said to be in excess of 300,000, fighting forces. So when we're concerned, in that situation, you see that it was just a matter, but the mind was not there. The psychology was not empowered. It wasn't enhanced. But what we need to do at our level, we haven't done badly in 61 years as a nation, very obviously, because we have tried to do so many things in the physical terms to bind us together in terms of physical infrastructure, in terms of, some of the symbols of nationhood that we've even evolved, in terms of how we live amongst ourselves from one section to the other, in terms of how ethnicities move to other ethnicity, and construct infrastructures, build, have huge investments. So in those terms, you will say that there's a level of integration that we have gone far into. But what the challenge before us now is how do we continue the development of how do we continue in this process? Especially with the challenge of insecurity, the challenge of kidnapping and agitations for secession, rearing their its head in some sections of the country. What more can we do to deal with some of these challenges? In the face of the heightened need for us to rebuild our nation or to sustain the building of the nation called Nigeria.
Okay. All right, Professor Adeniyi, thank you. Let's again bring in His Excellency just before we take our break in a short while. Your Excellency, during the first part of conversation on this topic, Nigeria is 61, looking at how we can strengthen our national unity, peace, and justice. One of the guests, or some of the guests, mentioned the need for or the necessity of rejigging Nigeria's peace and political architecture through adherence to constitutional provisions that will foster peace and national unity. And I think this question is rightly directed to you, Your Excellency. You have been, of course, a lawmaker. What do you think about this, and how can it be achieved?
Well, thank you. You recall I mentioned that I said the issue of reforms generally in terms of peace building does not only rest with Mr. President. I think we all have collective duties to also contribute in bringing in all our efforts. The government has three tiers. The judiciary is there, the legislature is there, and even the private sector. Everybody should find ways of contributing towards it. When we are already beginning to talk about the interests of regions, which is quite unfortunate. We had a communique at the Northern Governors Forum, and it's been misinterpreted severally everywhere. That the North is saying, no, we're standing against zoning, we're standing against this. All we're saying is we should not overheat the system. We are already moving towards an election. And if we're moving into an election, it's a matter of dialogue and negotiation. It's a matter of dialogue and negotiation. It will not be proper for a region to come out and say, no, if you don't do this, we must. The use of the word must. And I saw it coming from a lawyer, a very senior colleague of mine, to say that you must do this if you don't do that. And some will argue and say, no, it's constitutional, it is not constitutional. I'm also a lawyer. I have not seen any judgment of court saying, if you don't do zoning, this is what will happen to you. No court has given any if that is the constitutional aspect, then where have we not, when did we go to court to say that it must be this? We are governors, and if we are governors, certain decisions of at the subnational level should reflect the kind of unity that we want. We are moving. If you like, we have many political parties, and each political party has their own way of addressing the issue. If you zone to this person, nobody will take you to court. Today, I've seen that the other one party has zoned the chairmanship to a particular zone. We will not say it is unconstitutional to say you have zoned a party chairmanship to a particular place. But this is the time that we need to sit down together. Most of everything that we are doing as governors must be through negotiations and dialogue on the table, because we are moving towards unity. If one aspect things are bad in your region, you should come out and say it is bad. You condemn it and look for solutions to it. I told you earlier that at our level, we were always moving and running to states where when there are problems in those states. This is the kind of thing, the reflection that we should be doing. Nigeria is one. God would have created us in different ways, but God created us this way. And if he did that, then a lot of what we are doing now in the face of some of these challenges will be reconciliation, will be peace building. In my state, of course, I enacted a law on peace building. We have a peace building agency. In addition to that, we have also adopted what is done at the federal interreligious council. When you have this, give them a lot of this of these duties. Let the interreligious council continue to function. Let us have so much of peace building in our various states. Let us have so much of peace building in the nation. Let us have opportunities where we're doing distribution of projects, fair distribution of projects. This is what will stop some of these agitations that we're talking about as we move towards 2023. And so when we do that, collectively, we'll be addressing some of these challenges that we have, some of them natural challenges. COVID-19 came here, and everybody was battling for it. We didn't see it on the basis of our region. We didn't look at it on the basis of ethnicity or religion. Or religion. We all were collectively attacking the COVID-19. So the same way, let us collectively sit down to address some of these issues as we move to the federal government to do some of our own duties. So because if we have peace, there will be no agitation. If we have development, good development, and economy is moving well back, as we are doing now, there will be no agitation for secession. So for me, I believe that the unity of this country is supermost. The unity of this country cannot be sacrificed in any way. Let us all believe that first we are Nigerians before our region.
All right. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, there for your comments. We're going to have to take a short break now. When we return, we wrap up the program.
Give your kids winning energy. Milo Active Go. With the goodness of malt, milk, and cocoa, helps them make the most of every day. Milo, the energy to go further.
Dear compatriots, our country can be as great as we want.
Let us all commit ourselves to its greatness.
We must be willing to set aside our differences, unite and stay as one.
In our expansive landmass, human and material resources, and plurality lies our strength.
Let our challenges lead us to rediscover our common ground, and together, let's find solutions.
This will take some time, so it requires patience, tolerance, and forgiveness from every one of us.
Let all hands come on deck to protect and transform our country.
Let us unite and see each other not as adversaries, but as brothers and sisters.
Together, we can build a better Nigeria for ourselves and for the next generations.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA, with support from Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
Chelsea will look to bounce back from their loss against the defending champions when they take on Southampton at Stamford Bridge. Will they succeed? Find out this Saturday on the Premier League Live. It's Chelsea versus Southampton, showing on the network service of the NTA from 2:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu, empowered by Integral.
All right, welcome back. You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria. I thought Kingsley was going to take the next question. Kingsley, I think you have a question.
That's fair.
Yes.
That's fair. I just want to come back to Professor Biodun Adeniyi. In terms of seeking to strengthen our independence and enhance national unity, how do we ramp up on those integrative instruments that we already have, but which also look threatened today? The National Youth Service Corps, for instance. I mean, in the past, as young persons, we were all excited to be posted to locations far away from home. But these days, as you very well know, parents are bringing their children to serve right under their bed. Unity schools that were top-notch in those days do not appear to be serving the purposes. And there are also questions, as our guest raised yesterday, about the role of federal character and how it can be better utilized. So these are some of the integrative instruments. How do we continue to draw on these instruments to foster our national unity?
I agree with you absolutely. The nation building is about integration, fostering a sense of commonness, about homogenization in an atmosphere of difference, you know. But for us to do this, I think the ball is going to fall largely in the course of our leaders, you know. Leaders, you know, and, you know, I've tried to define this leadership. It's not just political leadership alone. Permeates all dimensions of our life. You know, they should rather lead, or rather we should rather lead, because in some sense you can also say, I'm also a leader, you know, with examples, you know, with precepts, not just mouthing things, you know, making pronouncements, you know, that we don't always live up to. It's very important for us to be conscious of this, to show example. We have a system where, you know, leaders luxuriate, leaders throw things in the face of the citizens, and in doing that, you can hardly engender confidence, engender trust, you know, from the citizens. You know, we need a reversal of this. We need exemplary leaders who will lead by example. If it is to say this for the umpteenth time, that's very, very important. Otherwise, we'll just continue to paper the crack and we'll continue to move in circles, you know, pretending, being hypocritical about development. You know, leaders will be doing something else and expect the citizens to be doing the other thing. You know, whatever leaders want citizens to do, I mean, the important thing is just for them to show the path so that there'll be a synergy.
I'm tempted to ask a sub-question. I know that's going to open up another debate. Yeah. Is there an elite consensus for Nigeria to be great? Or we have a selfish elite class?
I think it's an unconscious thing coming from the construction of our sociology, you know, which is around prebendalism, around materialism, around mercantilism, and of course we are also appendage of some foreign cultures which we are finding it difficult to break away from, and that's why we keep talking about some people who are ahead of us showing examples so that the rest can follow.
All right, Professor Adeniyi, thank you. Let's take our last question from His Excellency, Governor of Plateau State. Have we as Nigerians actually played our part well, even at the subnational level, in 61 years?
Well, that's what I'm saying. And so that at the subnational level, we are talking about the unity. It must be done mostly at the subnational level. So we have to sit down and do that if we want to help the unity of this country. It's not always what the president will say. It's not always what the president is doing, because we also have our responsibilities to do in our various sets. And if we are doing our responsibilities well, it will also go a long way in helping to douse the tension at the national level. For instance, I told you certain decisions when we do at our state, certain comments by our government about some of us, I'm sorry to say, certain comments about some of the governors will always go to show that, yes, we're supporting secession. And if we continue to do that, then how are we preaching unity of this country? That was not exactly what our forefathers were doing. When in the First Republic, we saw how they were all fighting for the progress of this country. When it comes to, yes, politics, they will do it in such a way that it is not a do or die affair. At the end of the day, the nation will continue to grow. The nation will exist. But then the differences will always come when we are doing our electioneering. So that is the aspect that I see. Mostly, it must be going back to us as at the sub-nationals, because we are the ones that are living in the states. The federal government is not Abuja. Federal government is states. And if that is state, then it behoves on us to do a lot of this peace building, of understanding, of sensitization, of dialogue, of dialogue. And this kind of dialogue will bring out peace. If it's bringing peace in our state, it will definitely bring us together. Forget about who will be this tomorrow. Forget about who will be that in 2023. Our hope is that Nigeria will continue to exist in spite of the interest or the ambitions of people. That's the best thing that we can continue to do if we want to ensure we have peace in this country.
All right. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Right Honorable Simon Bakola Long, Executive Governor of Plateau State, joining us this morning from Jos, the Plateau State capital, to discuss how to further strengthen our independence and enhance our national unity. Deep thanks to you, and enjoy the rest of your holidays. All right, here in the Abuja studios, we also would like to appreciate Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, who's a professor of mass communication at Bayes University in Abuja. Prof, thanks for being around.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so that's it for us today on Good Morning Nigeria. Of course, there will be continuing coverage of the Independence Day celebration on our network services. But Good Morning Nigeria ends now, and it's back on Monday at 7 in the morning. Enjoy your holidays. Have a lovely weekend. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
I'm Claire Delabo Abdul Razak, and happy Independence Anniversary to all Nigerians, and of course to those also celebrating the day, especially Doris Olumoko, our colleague in NTA. Bye-bye.